Welcome back to Prepare for the Unexpected. Today we are talking with Dr. Robin Yap. We've been chatting about organizational resilience, organizational change management, and now we're going to talk about something that we have been pushing off but touching on all the time, leadership. One of my favorite topics, and I know one of Dr. Yap's favorite topics as well. So my question for you, your own organization's tagline is the human first company. So why is it that so many leaders screw that up?
And I even copyrighted it. So so nobody can use it. No. So the question actually cuts to the heart of why we even founded this company with this very specific tagline. So there is a disconnect between rhetoric and reality when it comes to, I would say, three things. So one is structural incentives. So most organizations reward short-term financial performance above all, and that's kind of a bit of a challenge, right? There's always leaders feeling pressured to hit quarterly targets or cost reduction, blah blah. And so it's intellectually easy to claim that people are our greatest asset, but also simultaneously treating them as the most dispensable expense. So the incentive structures haven't been able to caught up with the rhetoric. The next thing that's a bit of a challenge is the idea that um, it's philosophical. So many leaders don't actually believe that people are people's first. And so it's great PR and it's great opportunity for recruitment, but not really a fundamental operating principle. So one of the things that I even had to experience was I was a reluctant CEO. So I was put in place with there in the by my board to be able to run the organization, and I was on the backside of that. I was doing research. I was the chief research officer. And to be able to get there, I needed to first think about that. And I needed to understand, okay, if humans first is our brand, what does that actually mean? Right? So true people's first thinking means that we have to accept that there are some financially optimal decisions that are unacceptable if they harm people. And so when we actually discuss this with our clients, they need to know that if they're going to work with us, they need to know that there are certain decisions that they may need to not do because it can potentially impact people. And so, even with the AI and the robotics component of what we um, help people with or clients with, we also need to say, okay, well, yes, we're going to put 17 robots in here, but you're affecting 3,000 people. And what does that actually mean? And is it going to harm them? Would it make it much more effective if we put in seven of these robots, but then keep the rest of the not maybe 3,000, but maybe 1,000 of them? And how does that actually mean? And as from our previous conversation, that would then be incorporated into what the strategy is, right? So there is also a disconnect with competency. Unfortunately, some leaders don't actually know what people's first mean. So we have to train them. And we have to then um, provide them with strategies that make sense to them as they're learning what people's first actually mean. So there is a feeling of what people first mean, and there's an actual understanding of what that actually means. And those two sometimes have a disconnect, and therefore you would need organizations like us or them going to school or some leadership executive program that's out there to be able to understand what that actually means. And then there's also an uncomfortable truth that leaders sometimes prioritize appearing human centered when they're not actually being human centered. So it's easy to post about mental health or than to actually redesign your workflow to not have a mental health workload. Or it's easier to say, oh, yeah, we're a diversity focused organization than to actually dismantle exclusionary systems, right? So one is a lot more work than the other. And that is a bit of a challenge. So those four things are reasons why we even exist as an organization, and the fact that we're even saying that we are a humans first organization.
So what kind of things should they be doing then to show that they are a people first organization?
Yeah, and I think so. We address those four things. So, as I mentioned, if there are structural incentives that are very much just about financials, then maybe have a reward system that's menu driven. So, one organization that I've been involved in is that we actually have a menu of instead of financial bonuses, for example, there's a whole slew of other things, charitable organization being one of them. You can actually, instead of getting your bonus, you can give your money to a charity. You can get um, uh, more opportunities for daycare or time off or mental health day, whatever that would be. It's in a
Mhm.
menu that people then choose rather than you just providing it to the organization, to the employees. And it's a, because one size doesn't fit all, but some organizations just do that because it's a lot of effort to even build a menu of reward systems for rewarding performance. So that's one piece. The other piece is this idea that if the actual leader don't believe it, then what is it that they actually believe? So there has to be a discussion around that. And if they're just one way of, I just believe in money, 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 then are they developing an organization that can potentially be toxic? So, and we've seen those leaders, and what is it that they need to then do? One is the fact that they've invited us for a conversation meant that there's a spark of interest into maybe they should do something about it themselves first. So belief systems are very difficult to even address, right? And
Yeah.
they're embedded into one's psyche. And how do you then encourage them to maybe look at things differently? So that is a whole process in itself. I mean, the beauty of having, you know, a social science background is to be able to understand how do you pair them with other leaders. We do have um, morning executive meetings that we get all the executives together and have these very difficult conversations because um, one leader might be very focused on financial, the other leader might be very focused on people only, and maybe if we pair them up, there's some happy medium along the way, or be able to at least have a discussion. So have conversations in place would be an opportunity for those individuals who may not always be believing what they're saying. The thing about competency also lines up to that, right? But the fact that when leaders are um, focusing on the human centered, um, they're not human centered, but they're saying that they are, then uh, l- engage the rest of the stakeholder representatives or stakeholder groups within the organization to then provide them with information around how they can actually alleviate or change or modify structures so that then the alignment of saying that we're human centered works with the actual events that happen in the environment. So, as I mentioned a while ago, for example, if you're saying that you are a diverse organization or you're focused on diversity, but then you have a very exclusionary system, what does that actually mean for not necessarily dismantling, but maybe modifying it, right? And so therefore become actually diverse and focused rather than just saying it. So again, you're switching the mode from performative to reality. And these things don't happen overnight. They happen in a period of time. And that's why transparency comes to place and honesty and truth, all of those things come to place, trust, I should say, to be able to um, provide a plan for to the employees that they're working with to say, okay, well, this is what's going to happen in the next 6 months. This is what's going to happen in the next year, and you will see some changes. But the reasons why we're doing this is X, and therefore we are going through these steps to get there. So long as you have all of that in place, then it will work. And very, I mean, change management, as you know very well, you've been an expert in this, is not a one-off, and you need sustainability as well, right? So that's important.
I liked how you brought all of the pieces that we talked about together. The resilience, the organization, the leadership, the change management, bringing it all together for everyone to make change and strong leadership and resilience happen. It's not just a one thing. You have so many different factors you have to bring together to create that success
Right, right.
to move forward. What happened, and you also mentioned a toxic environment. What happens if you have a toxic environment? How do you change that? Do you change the leadership? Because a toxic environment, and you mentioned this, it's going to take time for these things to happen. But a toxic environment, you can't let go very long. So
Oh, totally.
what do you do
Whew.
to get rid of a toxic environment? Do you fire the leader and get someone new? Like, what do you do?
Well, that's the extreme, and that has happened, right? And we've seen that happening. It's not uncommon. But that also could be a knee-jerk reaction
Mm,
because you can potentially have a toxic environment and everybody looks at it because of the leader, but the actual environment and the structures and processes in place are the ones that creates the toxicity of that environment. So you need somebody to be able to understand where is this coming from, what's the root cause of all of this, and be able to then address all of that all at the same time if possible, or at least have a strategy to then address each one of those. And we've seen organizations wherein the strategy is to actually get rid of the person leading that environment first, and then be able to change the processes. The challenge sometimes is that they would get rid of the leader and then they never get rid of the or update the
mm,
processes, and then toxicity happens again. And then people wonder, okay, your environment is just toxic. But in reality, it may not always just be that person. And the
right.
processes create an what do you call this? A feeling for that leader to be put in a box and therefore end up becoming toxic. So an example of that would be you have a leader that is trying to was given X number of milestones to hit. So they're trying to get all of that to happen, and then their processes are actually very bureaucratic that prevents them from reaching that. So for that individual leader, because of self-preservation, would then need to create an environment of hurry up, because they're also getting affected and not realizing that, oh yeah, that leader is such a toxic leader, when in reality, the processes are the ones that are preventing that leader from becoming a very good leader.
Right.
So it's quite interesting how that actually works.
Mm,
So when you come in as a humans first company, you need to understand, or a leader, you need to understand that it may not always just be that leader and get rid of that. It could actually be the environment itself and the bureaucracy that happens in that environment. The challenge is that the bigger we get and the quicker we absorb all these other processes from departments to get a bigger department, is the um that, if not addressed properly, can create bureaucracy. And then that will actually create delays, which then creates an impact on timelines, deliverables, etc., which then affects the leader to then push people harder, when in reality, well, the process prevents me from becoming a better person, but I have no time. So that's kind of what's going on there.
so you can kind of create your own issue
Oh my God,
at
I
some point.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. We have 1 minute left, Dr. Yap. Would you like
Yes.
to share any final thoughts either on resilience, change management, or leadership?
Yes, I think at the end of the day, communication is very important. For all of these things to happen properly, it's the understanding of what is it that you're communicating, how are you communicating, who are you communicating it with. And to be able to have that in place is key to having a better relationship with people. And that could even be applied to personal relationships, right? At the end of the day, so long as you have a better communication with whoever you're dealing with, then you are free enough and trust enough to be able to go and provide them with both positive, negative, or even ways to modify or adjust behaviors. And you have a better relationship at that point, and change will just be another thing that will happen. So
Yeah.
hopefully that helps.
Once again, communication is the key.
Exactly.
Dr. Yap, great chatting with you. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your thoughts with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And don't forget to check out Dr. Yap on his podcast. What was it? Yapping with Dr. Yap?
Yap with Dr. Yap.
Yap with Dr. Yap. Sorry.
Yes, no,
Yap with Dr. Yap. I'm sorry. I was
no,
close. I was close.
there you go. And you
Don't
will
forget.
see Alex's interview there as well. So there you
Oh,
go.
yes, that's right. Yeah, I'm there too. So thank you so much, Dr. Yap. I really appreciate it. And everyone watching and listening, stay prepared, everybody.
Bye.